Anyone out there who is watching this, welcome. This is Random Nonsense, where we are going to be discussing random fucking nonsense. Because
Dude, what the fuck is this song? Dude, I'm changing the station.
I've tested the sands of
Rock, you wanna go?
I've felt the fire
You in?
never
Oh, fuck yeah.
I didn't rise from prophecy. I rose from pressure.
And we're live. Welcome to episode 3 of Random Nonsense. I'm JJ, your host. That's my co-host.
Out our friend Travis, so I would like to welcome our friend and director, Travis, into the studio tonight.
Ahoy, everybody. How y'all doing?
We can throw it to the clip right here.
We have our special guest. I love the clicky button.
How's it going?
What's up, Shelly?
Not much. I
I'm not neat, just a big fucking baby.
Wait, I think I got it. Can you hear
Holy shit!
Almost fixed it.
me? Dude. Oh my god. I was just close to throwing my phone out the window.
What? So I just fixed it.
And
Howdy.
I just don't know how to say your last name for the life of me. Thank you. That's what he
I love the makeup. These guys are great.
Oh, yeah.
Interview nailed down. We finally have one of my favorite people on the shoot, Kevin.
So, yeah. That was wild. Top of the morning.
Hey, there we go.
And here is our guest. And this is DJ Michael.
Hey, how you guys? I'm good. How are you guys?
Our good friend.
Hey, Hadi!
Hey, what's up?
What's up, buddy?
I did.
And I did too.
I fucking will.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Sam's got the ingenuine blackboard, actually. The classic. Oh, yeah.
It's crazy. Thank you, by the way. And before I forget, the intro, it may be 3 minutes long, but it just proves that you're a true wrestling fan. Like, that's a legit wrestling intro. So, it works perfectly.
Hello and what is up and welcome to Random Nonsense. And why haven't I thought about doing the term like that? Like that was super cool. Why didn't I think about doing that?
I don't know.
We just filmed like an hour and something long interview, and we talked about all the great people. How the fuck did we not talk about beanies?
Oh,
Oh
my
my god, yeah.
Hello and welcome to Random Nonsense. Extra friend Jason, who plays Paul in the movie.
Yeah. Luckily, there's a thing right there.
And if he doesn't like it, I'm not gonna listen.
Just staying up till 2:30 in the morning and using AI to do everything.
That is very good. I like that. Very, very good.
Welcome to Random
enough to-
Nonsense. All opinions
Yeah, all
expressed
you gotta
on
do-
this show don't always reflect the beliefs of the people on this show. There will be some adult themes and references. We are all adults. If you are young, ask an adult for permission before watching. And remember, it's all for fun. JJ.
You're supposed to look so I can get you. Well, that's not what happened. I know, I saw that. But anyways, hello and welcome to a fun, different side of Random Nonsense that we haven't gotten to do in a while. We get to do an interview today, or as I like to call them, a chat, because we're not the most formal human beings on the planet. So you're here for our fun interview / chat with our good new friend, AP Sessler, and we're going to be talking about the movie him that he made. Wow, I need to learn to talk. That he made, called Project Mule. And for those of you who don't know, it's under Shane's umbrella of Blood Pact Films, who allows us to use his little intro into our intro. So thank you so much for that every week.
And Blood Pact.
We greatly appreciate that. But here's the trailer for Project Mule. So then after this, you can be introduced to AP Sessler.
The man, the myth, the legend.
And I should have had that pulled up in the background.
Yep.
I'm not good.
Déjenos en paz. No se acerquen.
Stand down. I said stand down.
It'll all be over soon.
This is too much.
Church youth group are seen praying for a man one moment before violently attacking him next.
Let's play ball.
Seriously? What is wrong with you?
Without further ado, now that I've unmuted myself, Miss AP Sessler.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, welcome, sir. Again, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us and do this. The mood lighting is great. I love the purples and blues. It's very creep show. Very nice. It's got great vibes to it, man. That's fantastic.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So
yes,
thank you.
Likewise, we're excited to have you here, sir.
So after rewatching the trailer, and now that I know what you look like, is the main character based off of you in some kind of way? Because
no, exactly. No, funnily enough, the character you see at the very end of the movie, chatting. There's two basically teenage guys chatting with one another. One is Alex Smart, who's a play on words of me because I'm a smart Alec, right? So that's headbanger me, 18-year-old, 19-year-old me. That's really my presence in there. And his chats go throughout the movie. You see him chatting and responding. He's always kind of snarky and smart alecky. But the main character, well, of course, I guess there's two main characters. There's the doctor, who he wasn't modeled after anyone, but he's voiced by the writer S.L. Edwards or Sam Edwards, and the main character, the one who you see at the computer typing and making comments. Dan Tribble, he's actually modeled after another writer named Dan, and I'm probably going to Dwayne. I always screw up his last name, Pesice, P-E-S-I-C-E. I don't know how to pronounce that, so sorry, Dwayne, if you're watching. But he is that character. When I was writing that character, the other fifth Beatle is his screen name. He's sort of, this kind of hippie guy, and he alludes to being the other fifth Beatle, like maybe he played with him at some point, and he keeps referencing all the bands that he's hung out with and been in his studio with through his comments. But he's very chill. He's not taking the bait. He's not fighting or anything like that. He's just there to have a good time. He's just kind of observing. And of course, it does get to him. And that's why he has to have his smoke break, that scene. But yeah, he's modeled after that guy, Dwayne, at least in visually. And of course, the voice, he's voiced by Dwayne. And Dwayne would probably maybe describe himself as kind of an old grump or grumpy kind of guy. So he might be sort of opposite that, but he's still in the same spiritual lineage as that guy. Just a great musician, great writer and all that.
That's cool. And you and I spoke the other day on the phone. I asked you a few things, kind of get a bit of backstory behind it. If you don't mind, would you like to share with everyone where this all came from and how long it took to get here?
All right, and apologies for the long story. I wrote this story in 2000. Well, actually, I was finishing it in 2018. That's when I first started submitting it to magazines, anthologies, and stuff like that. And it was picked up by Midnight Street Press. Gonna give them a plug right here. The editor was Trevor Denyer, and he accepted the story. And it was published in 2020. Right before COVID happened. So this wasn't intended to be some kind of topical thing. I was just, I love conspiracy theories. I'm a big fan of David Cronenberg. I love that almost all his movies have this sort of underlying conspiracy going on. So that resonates with me. So, it was just, okay, this scientist is, going to create this virus. And I do have to say, I'm not someone who believes necessarily the virus was created in a lab in real life, okay? Who knows? You can't put anything past the government, but I don't believe it was some kind of evil, plot by Fauci to do this. I do believe in vaccines and I believe in science, right? Let me put that out there. But yeah, so the story was just written as a conspiracy theory. What if someone created this virus to use it against an enemy, but then he had a crisis of conscience and he decides to inject himself with the virus and he goes to a coffee shop and that's where the plague starts. He is patient zero, or as the first chapter is called, Patriot Zero. He realizes this government is corrupt and it's, out to harm innocent people. So he's saying, screw it. I'm gonna hurt you, all the people that voted for this. So it was nothing intentional other than the Conyers character. President Conyers is clearly modeled after Trump.
Yes.
It was basically me saying, what would he do if there was an epidemic? Wow, that's what happened. He would do a lot of the things that happened in this epidemic. So it was nothing intentional. It was, I like to say writers, artists in general, were accidental mystics. Accidental prophets. We sometimes we create art, and I think sometimes we're tapping into maybe the universe or something. Maybe the universe is trying to tell us something, and we put it out there, and then things happen, and you go, "Oh, that's interesting." Yeah. So I guess that was it. The backstory, as I was talking to you, JJ, that came about later. I knew that the guy was a scientist who had a crisis of conscience, but I didn't know what the plague was invented for. And that's where it did get based on the current events of 2020, when I actually started working on this to make it into a film. And then you can see, that it's used against children coming over the border. They're basically being infected with this virus, and the intention is to send them back over the border so that they can infect everyone south of the border. And so it's essentially a sort of rage virus. It makes you go crazy and rapey and violent and kill. So then even if it doesn't make you rapey or violent, it accelerates your heart, your adrenaline, your adrenal glands go crazy, and basically your heart eventually explodes and you're dead. So it's kind of that's for like the people that can't handle it. They can't actually be useful as weapons.
Yeah.
They succumb to the effects of its pressure on the body, and they die.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it seemed to be very from the get-go very topical, and it seemed to tap into a lot of the things that had been going on for like years, and it seemed to touch on a lot of different subjects in a very unique manner. The art, the animation was, it reminded me of so many different things,
I think one of the strongest artistic points for me was in the very beginning when the doctor is lying down to sleep and he's dreaming, and the art styling is such as you can like see the eyes behind the, and so he's sleeping and dreaming, but it's not presented as such. Like you can kind of get that from the feel.
Mm-hmm.
Was that now you did all the animation and the artwork for this movie, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
What was some of your inspiration for if there was any rather for the art style that you did it in? It reminded me a lot of like, and again in a good way, like Powerpuff Girls and a lot of like different independent animation. And I loved the use of color, the use of solids, like solids to convey where there should be like lots of gradient light, but you presented them in like solid and like pastels almost and stuff. Absolutely visually amazing. What were some of the inspirations for that?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I try to take the minimalist approach. So if you've ever watched like Saul Bass's introductions to 70s movies, he very minimalistic approach to the animated titles that he does. And of course, you mentioned Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory, all that stuff. Big fan.
Yes.
Yes, big fan of. I always get his name wrong. Gindi. Is it Gindi or Jindy?
I think it's Gendy.
Okay, yeah. So big fan of his style. I grew up really. My inspiration as a kid was Don Bluth.
Yeah.
When the game Dragon's Lair came out, I pretty much learned how to draw every scene from Dragon's Lair and Space Ace. People at school would be like, "Hey, can you draw me this scene?" And I would just draw the entire scene, like from that frame of the game. I would draw everything. Really nicely rendered. So Don Bluth was a big inspiration. Later on, Ralph Bakshi kind of became my go-to. I really like Ralph Bakshi's his character designs. I like Gindy's character designs. So kind of a mixture of like Don Bluth, Ralph Bakshi, and Gindy. So kind of put that all together, and I kind of developed, I guess, what I call my style, and I'm comfortable with it. So that's what I go with.
Yeah, no, it was like I said, it was very, very impressive. And especially when you get to the credits and you find out that you are like it's pretty much. Not entirely, but for the most part, a one-man show, as far as like writing, directing, animation. I think the biggest list of credits we saw was for like the voice actors and then the music that you used, which I don't even want to get started on the music yet because that's a whole other topic. But yeah, it's very impressive.
Thank you.
It's a lot of work.
It was 5 years of work. It just came out in 2025. So yeah, I started around 2020. I said, "Oh, this won't take any time at all." I said, "No, because I'm just doing an animated social media feed." In the book again, I'm going to plug that again. Strange Days by Midnight Street Press. When they published it, normally publishers don't want any weird formatting. They just want regular book style text, narrative kind of text. And I knew I was pushing it, but I was like, no, I want it to look like a social media feed. So I basically did all the fonts and text, just like you would see when you're watching a social media feed, like you see in the movie.
Yeah.
The movie, that text is actually taken from the file they got printed in this book, which I was so happy that they accepted it as that and didn't say, "Hey, this is too much crazy formatting. We're not, going to do this." So yeah, they made it look exactly like it looks in the movie.
Well, I think that's a credit to them as well letting you retain that kind of artistic integrity and like letting you keep, your vision.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I for me, one of the parts that really stood out to me was when he's dreaming. It's like all of like some of the most beautiful religious paintings like across the world. Did you just like throw those in there, or were there's like a point behind it? Like, what was that about? Because that I won't lie, I got
because the whole movie seems very religiously driven as well. Yes. Like there's a huge underlying religious theme to the whole thing too, in my opinion.
Yeah. So yeah, the idea of him being this sort of patriot, he's fighting the evils of the world. And when you see him, the first online interaction with him and the general, they're basically targeting Muslim terrorists overseas.
Yeah,
that's what he's designing the plague for. He's like, all right, we're going to go get those Muslims. He's got this, religious, conviction, Christian nation kind of thing, sort of Christian nationalism. He's kind of okay with that. Let's go fight the, the evil, Muslims across the sea. And then when he realizes, hey, this is going to be used on your neighbors, that's when he has the crisis of conscience. So the dream is him dealing with that. So, Abraham sacrificing Isaac. There's those paintings and there's the crucifixion. It keeps going back and forth to those two paintings. And I'm glad you really like that one. That's actually my second favorite scene. The first one is the Tuba Kush, the getting high scene, and the nightmare collage is what I call that scene with the paintings. It was really neat how that turned out. I was like, okay, I'm just going to use, some of these paintings, public domain paintings. Everyone knows them or is at least familiar with some of them. And when I started looking at them, I started realizing, wow, a lot of these paintings look like they were inspired by other paintings. And so I said, what if you could animate these paintings just using the paintings? Now, a lot of people have done the whole, Monty Python, Terry Gilliam thing where you manipulate the actual elements in the painting.
And you make that come out like this.
So I was like, okay, everyone's done that. But what if you used actual historic paintings without manipulating them at all, but use them as animation frames? So a lot of that stuff you see, you'll notice that some of the colors of the clothes are the same, like the hair is the same. And you're like, why does this painting look so much like that one? Did this artist go to a museum or did he study under this person? Some of these artists are probably like, 100 years apart, time-wise. But you go, why does this look so much like that? Just like today, we're inspired by art. You can't hide your inspiration, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of those paintings in that you could see the inspiration. Maybe they were on a tour and they saw this painting and go, I want to paint something like that. And so they did. And so a lot of those paintings are very similar. And I tried to use them in that way to tell the story of this crisis of conscience that Dr. Rice is having. So it goes back and forth between the crucifixion and offering Isaac up. Also, the live footage I use there. I knew a guy who was a missionary in Indonesia, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, man, can you get some footage?" And then I was like, I didn't know how this was going to go over. I was like, "Can you get some footage of slaughtering animals?" And he's like, "Sure." There's this holiday that they celebrate. The Muslims celebrate a holiday, and they basically do a live public slaughter, and then they give the meat out to everyone. So it's not like this barbaric thing.
It's killing for the bit of
right. So it's not barbaric any more than us eating a chicken sandwich or a hamburger. So it's a public thing they do is a sort of offering to the people, and they give it out, and it's that part of it's beautiful. And I said, well, wow. So this ties in with the whole sacrificial lamb thing, and so this friend got some footage of that. And that's why that's in there. And I was like, I know this is probably not going to ever get accepted by PETA. Actually, I wrote to, it was either the Humane Society. I think it was the Humane Society. Because they, if you ever notice, like on movies where there's animals, it'll be like this movie was, approved by the Humane Society or whatever. And I contacted them. I said, hey, what if I did this, not like I was expecting major distribution, but I was like, what if there's like animal slaughter in my movie, but it's like for people they're being nice and they're giving this out to people and they're like, we will not support this. So it was kind of funny. I just wanted to see what they would say, and it was a big no. We would not.
That's pretty good that they even got back to you. I think that's impressive. Even though you knew the answer going in, I think that's interesting that they even got back to you.
Yeah,
they didn't view you as kind of like a joke or anything like that. They took it quasi seriously.
Yes,
which is nice.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And also, I think, was there any intention between, because if you look at the doctor and Jesus, they're both kind of emaciated looking. You know what I mean? Was there any kind of like inadvertent or maybe not so inadvertent like Christ parallel as far as aesthetics go to that, or was that just completely unintentional and just the way it worked?
Unintentional, but it's interesting that you bring that up because he does, in the dream, he pictures himself on the cross at the end of the dream. It wasn't intentional, but I guess it worked out. Maybe the subconscious thing, I guess.
Nice.
No, it definitely worked. And there was one actually when we rewatched the trailer. There's this one part where it's got him on one side like the Christ iconography, and on the other side it's got the devilly looking shadow with the mean eyes. It kind of furthers that religious implications and everything like that,
right?
Which I didn't notice the first time watching through, because the movie was a lot to take in, and I thought that was a really nice touch.
Thank you.
Again, whether advertently or not, that
was definitely intentional.
Okay, then there you go.
Now we know.
So that character super portioned me. He's the one that you see at the beginning putting his hand on the doctor's shoulder. He says, "Hey, buddy, you all right?" And he's like, "Can I get you some coffee?" He's like trying to be this good Christian guy, reaching out and helping people out. So he's the one that takes him into the coffee shop and buys him coffee. And then, of course, that's when the plague starts spreading. And then you see all the kids beat up the homeless person, which is the doctor, and basically dressed as a homeless person. So when you see the guy going to church, that super portioned me.
I thought so. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's the coffee shop guy.
It is. Okay. Good catch. So yeah, he's basically going into there in the church, and this sort of Christian nationalist thing about where white churches or white Christians are better than other Christians. So it's just kind of well, everyone else that doesn't think like me must be the devil. So he goes into this black church with this idea that I'm going to go take down these false prophets, these the idols of Baal and or altars of Baal. So he's going in this thinking he's on this, divine mission, but he's also infected by the plague. So he goes in there and, attacks the minister and his wife. So that, there's a lot of religious stuff in there. And that's largely because for 20 years, I was a very devout Christian. And I pretty much I was starting to lean very far right. And thankfully, I got out of all that, got out of that whole ideology. But if I'd hung around a little bit longer, I might have been full on MAGA. But thankfully, something happened. I'm not quite sure what it was, but something happened and changed my course. It was probably some of the people I was hanging out with, a little more enlightened than myself, and it was a gradual process. A lot of people I worked with were kind of, their influence was changing a lot of my hardcore, dogmatic views. So I have to thank a lot of the people I worked with over the years that have helped gradually bring me out of that.
Now, I know JJ has questions. I promise this is my last one. I'll ask one and I'll shut up.
He's actually answered most of them as we've talked. Like everything I have written down, he's kind of answered as we've been talking.
Well, so that's great.
We'll come up with some on the fly, so you're good.
What was your? Because I know you said this took about 5 years from like inception to fruition. What was your biggest sacrifice during the whole making of this film?
That's a good question.
Well, it definitely cost some money to get I'd never had music mastered before. I hired a friend to do some of the orchestral arrangements. I wrote all the parts, I composed all the music, but I wasn't very confident that my arrangements were right when it came to the orchestral elements. And so Giordano Maselli, he's an Italian composer. I reached out to him and I was like, look, can you make sure this stuff is right? And can you maybe make it sound better? And, I have my limited instruments, virtual synths and stuff. And he has access to a lot better stuff. He actually was like, hey, do you want a real orchestra? I was like, I can't afford a real orchestra. He was going to have a real orchestra play that. So I appreciate that.
Wow. That was amazing, but probably pretty, outside expensive. The budget. Yeah.
Right. So he did all that virtually, but he basically went over and he didn't have to change a lot, which I was super kind of self-proud. I was like, oh, wow, you didn't have to do that. I was like, make sure all the instruments are in the right ranges, because one of the problems with virtual instruments is oftentimes they'll map an instrument across the entire, keyboard. So if you got an 8-octave, keyboard, they got the instrument going 8 octaves. That instrument might only have a 2 or 3, 4-octave range. Yeah. And so you're playing in unrealistic parts with that instrument. So I wanted to make sure everything was, right. And so he did add a few little elements, like, doubled a couple instruments. He added the mellotron, which I really love, the mellotron choir, right as in the tuba kush scene when Dwayne's or Dan's head launches like a missile out of the hole in the ground. He added that, heavy choir that's very reminiscent of, sort of Fabio Frizzi kind of,
Fabio Frizzi, now you're talking my language.
Yeah. So those mellotron, he added that mellotron in there. That was totally his idea, and I was like, oh my gosh, that just upped, the game big time.
That's cool, though.
Jimmy Studios did the mastering, and so those were probably the two biggest things, was paying for orchestration and mastering. Overall, the budget was essentially $2,000. So
that's impressive.
Of course, that's basically paying them. A few of the voice artists, a lot of friends volunteered to do stuff. I say volunteered, some of them I drafted, and they thankfully went along with it. But I did pay a few voice actors. Basically, Super Portion Me, the coffee shop guy, and the minister, R.A. Johnson III. I paid him. Nick Atlas was Super Portion Me, so I paid them to do that. Oh, and the child actor. I reached out. His mother. I needed someone to do the child's voice. I had friends, that could do it, but they were girls, and I thought, hey, you could sound like a boy, right? Like a child, just like a lot of famous voice actors, or women who do boy children, Bart Simpson, that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I had a couple, people in mind, and they kind of said, well, my Spanish isn't really that good, so maybe not, So yeah, I did have that one child actor do that, and he just was amazing. Like this, I sent him, his mother the lines. I was like, and then here's another thing. I know I'm totally going way around the question you asked.
This is your time to shine, sir.
I don't speak Spanish, more than anyone else that doesn't speak Spanish. We know a few words and phrases here and there. But I couldn't do the translation. So I said, anyone who does the Spanish parts, I'm going to need you to translate, and I'm just going to trust your translation. Albie Robles, he actually volunteered to do the father character.
Oh, wow.
And that guy, he's like a professional voice actor now. He's doing he's been on like One Piece, and he's done some games. Yeah, so he's done some really cool stuff. Nick Atlas has also done some games and stuff too. They basically did all the translation for me. I appreciated that. I'm trying to get back to your question, which was biggest sacrifice. So the financial part, the sleep that goes away when one works on a project like this, being 5 years and working a full-time job. This is basically done in my spare time. So I get home, and I'm like this. I've been like this all my adult life. When I get home from work, I'm working on projects. I'm working on either I'm writing a story, or I'm recording music, or I'm animating. So I'm always in create mode. So I very rarely have downtime, except when I force myself to do stuff like this or go to a movie. That's the only time when it's like, oh wow, you can actually enjoy a life if you slow down a second here. So, basically giving up a lot of sleep to finish that, especially in the last year or so. I had been working on a novelette at the same time, and it just got finished, and I'll be putting that up on Amazon soon. Called Living Large. If at the end of the movie in the credits for a half a second, you'll see on the right-hand side, you'll see two of my books. You'll see one is Dr. Sand's Maritime Museum of Nautical Oddities, which is an anthology. And underneath that, it's Living Large. And Living Large is my sci-fi book that I've been working on. And so it was like, okay, you got to give up finishing this book because you got to finish this movie. Right. So I finished the movie, and then I finished the book. But there was that. I'll always having to juggle which projects do you want to work on. I'm usually working on 5 or 6 projects at a time. I've never necessarily been diagnosed with ADHD. I don't think I have it, but I definitely artistically have it. I work on a project. If something isn't jiving with me, I say, okay, leave that be, put it on the back burner, go cook this for a while. And once that gets, whatever, if it's done, or you lose interest, go back to this or go back to that. So I'm always plate juggling projects. So.
Well, if you ever need another voice actor for anything, I would fully be honored to.
All right.
For something.
Yeah, man. I really liked The Anointed. I mentioned, coming out of this sort of cultish mindset. So anything cult movie related, I'm there.
Thank you, that's very kind of you to say.
You're welcome.
On that one.
You guys are amazing actors. I was talking to JJ and I was like, so you guys are just podcasters and you like nailed this, these characters. I know you're kind of playing yourself, but really natural on screen acting.
Thank you.
So yeah, you're welcome. And was it Hefty? Was it you that said I looked like Gunnar Hansen?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I was going to point out JJ. The whole time I'm watching JJ, and I'm like, he looks like a young John Dugan.
Yeah.
Like when John Dugan has his wild hair,
Yeah.
He looks like John Dugan. So
I've never gotten that one. I'll take that one.
Yeah.
Before,
thank you. And thank you, Shane.
You're welcome.
I also figured out while you were speaking, AP, you also very aesthetically remind me of Wes Craven.
Oh wow! All right, I'll take that.
Again, complimentary.
All aboard.
100%.
Heck yeah, man! Heck yeah.
But yeah.
Well, no, now that Shane popped in, here's a good question. How did you and Shane find each other to get to where you are right now?
That's a great question.
Oh, man. Shane, you are a godsend. He's there, you said, somewhere in here?
Yep, he's down at the bottom of the chat right now.
Okay, yeah, I can't see that at all. But, yeah, Shane, man, he saved my life on this. I can't praise him enough. I submitted this movie to Film Hub. I've never, published a movie before other than a couple short films. I have a friend that runs, a film festival. He's the only one who's ever showed my movies, publicly. Matt Arts, I have to give him praise, who runs a Halloween International Film Festival and runs Halloween Daily News here on the Outer Banks. But I finished it and I put it on Film Hub. And I knew it was a hard sale to begin with. You've watched it. I appreciate that. I know it's a hard watch because of all the reading involved. No one really wants to read a movie. This was written in the mindset of this is for people who love reading online arguments. And I'm one of those. I'm a voyeur in that regard. I get stuck in these online arguments. And you don't even have to interact. You're just reading two people argue. And you're going to spend a half hour of your time. And you go, oh, my gosh, I just wasted a half hour watching two strangers argue about, vaccines or this or that. And like, what am I doing? Yeah. And so the movie was written, or the story was written like that, and it was for people like me that love it or hate it, that they have this problem, right? This addiction to social media. So yeah, I knew it was a hard sale. It sat there for, a month or two, and when you're on that Film Hub Facebook page, everyone's like, "Oh, I got accepted," and I'm on Tubi and I'm on Amazon, and you're like, you just you're like kicking yourself in the butt, go eat worms and die. So yeah, and then I said, screw it, man, I need to see, I was like, does anybody out there, want a movie? I was like basically crawling on my knees and put it out there. And like 4 or 5 guys reached out to me, and I was just so grateful for that. Ron Bonk of I think it's SMS.
Yeah, I know of Ron Bonk. I'm a friend.
He reached out to me. Couple other guys reached out, and they were like, "Hey, I'll give it a shot." And that's all I wanted was a shot. Again, I know it was a tough sell, and so yeah, Shane was the first one that said, "Hey, man, I like this. I want it." Ron was thinking about it. He was like, I kind of dig it. And I was like, well, I'm already talking to Shane. You know how it is. You're like, who do I go to? Do I go to this guy or that guy? And I was like, maybe Shane can do, physical media or streaming, and maybe Ron can do the other. Ron's like, no, I got to have everything. So I was like, okay. So I was like, Shane, and Shane has just been, man, the freaking, MVP. I don't know. Yeah. The fact that he can do what Film Hub can't. Now, here's the deal. Film Hub, claims that they're pitching I'm bitching on Film Hub now. I probably will eventually submit something to them again. Actually, I just submitted another short that probably won't go anywhere. But they say, oh, well, we're pitching your stuff every day. We're going to these pitching meetings. And I'm like, okay, are you really pitching my movie? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't, And again, tough sale. I wasn't expecting, freaking Lionsgate to come run into me or something. But
Heaven's Gate. Nice.
I'm just like, man, come on, someone's got to, give me a break here. And so Shane, took that up on him and went with it. And he can get my movie on film on Fossum, but Film Hub can't. He can get my movie on Wuku, but Film Hub can't. Film Hub is pitching my movie every day, and this is like a multi-million-dollar company, I'm sure. With probably like a huge staff. Probably dozens of people. And you guys can't get my movie on a streaming service. Shane single-handedly becomes like Superman and gets my movie out there. So I can't praise Shane enough. Shane, thank you so much, man. And I'm sure you guys feel the same way.
Yeah, we really do. Yeah, Shane was a godsend. And not to really talk about our movie because this isn't what the show is about.
When we've done that enough.
But we've done that to death. But seeing as how we're both under the same umbrella, you know what I mean? 18 Hertz Studio is, The Anointed is Blood Pact Films' baby, and Project Mule is in the same thing. And we've been lucky we've been able to have Shane on the show.
Yep.
And been able to have discussions with the guy like off camera, and just what a great guy, and who cares about a lot of movies that I think a lot of companies wouldn't give a second look to, because he believes in art and the artist. And he's always, he's a very respectful guy. Let me wipe my chin here real quick.
I was just about to say that was right there.
But what a great guy. Yeah, and Blood Pact Films they're fantastic, man.
For sure.
I mean, I reached out to him with the idea to start to do these, and we got a hold of Al or AP in about a week afterwards.
Yeah.
So Shane doesn't stop moving. The dude's always doing something. If you pitch him something and he likes it, he's going to make it happen, just like this is happening right now.
Yeah.
So thank you for everything you do, not just for us, but for everybody else under your little umbrella. Ella. I have to do that every time. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
That was excellent.
Hey, where is Shane today, by the way?
That's a good question. So for everybody who doesn't know, Evansville, Indiana Horror Con. Blood Pact Films are going to be there. 18 Hertz Studio is going to be there. It's going to be a great time. It's in Evansville, Indiana. Like I said, I'll be there the 28th through the 1st, I believe.
Yes, sir.
And there's going to be lots of great guests, lots of cool stuff to do. So go check that out. And absolutely. Cosplay. You're going to be able to buy merch and some of the movies that we're talking about.
Yep.
So if you're in the area, go. What are you waiting for?
Nice.
Thank you. That was good. That was good.
Yeah, because I got to throw you on the spot right there.
Yes, thank you. That's okay.
Very good.
And I just have to let you know, I'm not pleasuring myself right now. I'm pleasuring my dog.
There we go. That's all we ask.
Mine's asleep on the floor. I'm surprised he's not.
She's under the table right now, and she wants some attention. So giving her a little bit of attention.
It was more fun when you were pleasuring yourself, but now that we know you're pleasuring yourself, that makes it even better, I guess. What are you gonna do? I said it. I stand by it. You hired me. What do you want?
I know I hired you. Oh well. So was there a scene in this movie that it came out and then you kind of gave it a day, you went back to like no, and it went in the trash, and you went again, and it still wasn't the correct way?
I mentioned to you that I did cut out a bit of the reading because I knew that was asking a lot of people to sit there and read a movie for an hour. There was going to be about 20 extra minutes of that. And I was like, no, I can't do it. I just cannot, try people's patience that much. So there was a page or two of text that got cut out. As far as the visual stuff, a lot of stuff was coming to me as I was writing it. The whole church scene, I wasn't intending to animate that. I was going to do that just with the narrative text, because that's the way it was written in the story. You were just going to hear about it through the things. And I was like, well, maybe I could show it. And it's like, oh yeah, I guess I could. And the same with the epilogue. I didn't plan to do the whole, the family, sort of symbolically. Yeah. Being the same family that you see in the dream, now being the family that survives this, nuclear holocaust, and the family comes, at the end. That was an afterthought. I didn't think it needed that, but I was like, no, I would really like this to end on a positive note. I just blew up the world, or at least America. So how about we end on a happy note, a note of hope, you know?
Yeah.
And so that last scene was kind of special to me.
Okay.
That, you know, and the fact that these three are interacting, the three actors, and they're not in the same room and they're not hearing each other's parts.
Yeah.
They're just seeing the lines written down. It's like, okay, you know, do this line as if you're responding to this, you know, person saying that. And so they all did a wonderful job of that. So kudos to them.
The end was very reminiscent of the first Return of the Living Dead, where you got the town that's infected, and then they hit the button, and then the missiles. Well, watch the movie. Sorry.
Very, very good catch. That was definitely in the back of my mind as I was doing this. Well, I mean, the story was written that way that the president was going to, you know, do this.
Yeah, do the thing.
But he's of course running off to safety. He goes to, you know, Raven Rock.
Yeah.
And he's out of harm's way. Oh, that was another.
Yeah.
That was another afterthought. I was just going to do the whole, you know, the launch sequence, you know, where we're spoiling everything, right? But I was going to do that whole sequence. Without the phone call. You hear basically it had started with the guy putting the phone down where he says, "Yes, sir, I understand," you know, and he puts the phone down. That's how that scene was supposed to play out. The whole president scene that got added. I was like, no, I really need to throw him in there.
I thought that was a perfect addition because it kind of shows like the nonchalant, like almost like you know, he couldn't even be interrupted. His burger
right.
been interrupted to read. And I'm not gonna give it out, but the acronym for the code word. Like dude, I was like, okay, well that's pretty on the nose there. Yeah, we know. But dude, it was fantastic. It was definitely something.
Thank you, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch it.
No,
I know I have friends that have watched it. They're like, one of the guys, his name's Robbie. He's a guy I work with. He said, I watched that whole movie because we're friends. He's like, that's the only reason I watched it all. I was like, thank you. I can't ask more of you than that. Thank you, man.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No, it was, I mean, I wanted to touch on the music. The music was so on point. And
thank you.
It almost changed as much as the subject matter did.
Yep.
Or maybe not the subject matter, but it was very
it progressed along with the movie.
Yeah.
Like each thing had its own sound, basically.
Yeah.
Right. And that was a tricky part. I originally was gonna have another composer do that. I was like, man, I want like something that loops, but something like I can change. Like I basically wanted a lot of loops that I could basically manipulate. But I wanted them done by like a real professional, you know, musician. I'm a hobbyist, you know. Right. But I was like, I want it to feel like Prince of Darkness, you know.
Yeah.
Prince of Darkness from beginning to end, that is probably one of John Carpenter's best soundtracks.
Agreed.
It doesn't stop. It's always just moving and pulsing. And you know, it's vibrant and alive, and I wanted something like that. I was like, I need something that glues this whole movie together, but doesn't get monotonous. Like, sorry, John Carpenter, the Halloween theme. Oh my God, you know, it's a great theme, but anytime you watch a Halloween movie and you hear that theme, you know, for 2 hours, you're like, oh my God, you know, come on. Sorry, John, I love you. John is my favorite. John Carpenter is my favorite director, but and an awesome composer, but. Yeah. I didn't want a theme to wear you down, like, oh God, okay, we get it, you know. So I kept elements of the music, the dun, 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 you know, that sort of thing. I wanted to use a lot of the same synths so that it had a cohesive feel.
Yeah.
And I used a lot of recurring themes. Da, 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 da. You know, that gets used. There's a few themes like that get used throughout it. I wanted to have a cohesive feel and not feel like completely different, you know, pieces of music, but I also wanted to be interesting and have fun, you know. I get bored too with music, so I wanted everything to be progressive, you know, to have a a continual, movement in the music. So
No, I think the music meshed very well with the narrative and everything that was going on. I thought that was a really unique choice as well. Just because it's I'm trying to think of a way to explain it. It's like it's the same but different. I don't know. It's got a lot of variation to it while still retaining the main theme, which is what you were kind of saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was very, between the aesthetics and the music, it all worked. Yeah.
Thank you.
I thought there were a lot of really great creative decisions that went into the movie.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was worried that people were not going to like the music. I put out a lot of music, and all my Facebook friends, I'm like, here's my newest song. And it's like, crickets, it's like, come on, check out this piece of music. Crickets. So I was like, okay, here we go. I know I could pay someone else to do this, but I'm a musician and I'm a composer. I've been doing this all my life. So,
man.
I want to do the music, and I want the music to sound like I think it should sound, for each scene. One of the things I don't like about some films is there's too much music too all the time. Sometimes you need quiet. Sometimes you need the silence. Sometimes you need the ambient sound of the forest or the hallway or whatever. So like in the scene where the soldier's walking with the boy, and I just wanted footsteps, them having a conversation. I wanted to have some scenes silent, in the very end scene,
and it works.
You just hear the wind kind of there's a little bit of ambient music there, but I do appreciate silence, and I think it should get used more in movies. Anyway,
no, that you're good, man. This is all it's cool to hear, man. This is why we like doing these. Is because it's always cool to see, like, you watch the art, but then you get a lot of insight, like, from an artist's perspective.
Yeah.
So it's always cool to see the process, you know what I mean? And everybody's individual idiosyncratic things that they go through during the creative process. And especially for one, like I said, so long out as yours, 5 years, that's a long time to get a project, from
inception to finish line.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So well done, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well,
yeah, absolutely.
We've got about 7 minutes or 8 minutes left. Let's ask some fun questions now.
All right.
What is your all-time favorite horror movie?
Dude, I hate when people ask that question.
I have too.
I do too. Some horror movie guys.
I always go, what genre? And then there's subgenres, and all that. So
we need to be friends.
Oh,
we gonna be friends.
So if you said, what would be maybe like your favorite, horror movie franchise or something,
okay, I
might go with Phantasm.
Oh my God, I love this guy.
Good choice.
I fucking love this guy.
That Don Coscarelli, man, if he had been born in the early 1900s, he would have been big as Lovecraft.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That whole mythology, that lore that he created within Phantasm, it's so unique and it's so underappreciated, so overlooked. He is, I think, the cinematic version of Lovecraft, as far as that goes. And I mean, that was basically life defining, seeing that as a kid.
Yeah.
So yeah, if I'm going to go with like a franchise, I'd say that. But again, John Carpenter is my favorite director. So, and I can't pick a favorite of his movies even. Man, so many good ones.
I was always a big fan of In the Mouth of Madness. Because that, I feel that was one of his best scores, even though it wasn't just him on that. The music on that is phenomenal, and just that was one that my brother's girlfriend had on VHS back in the day. That I had no idea what it was, so I popped it in, and my mind was blown. I was like, "What a great movie!" That was
the first movie that gave me nightmares in a long time. The first few times I watched it, I had nightmares about going crazy. That is the first. In the Mouth of Madness. Oops, I'm getting a spam call here. Of course, Prince of Darkness. They Live. I mean, geez, man. The Thing. I love The Thing, but I would probably put other films as my favorites. You know.
That's fair.
I'm one of the guys that is not a super fan of Halloween. I love Halloween 3. Halloween 3 is actually my favorite of the Halloweens. The Dan O'Bannon story.
I know.
But, yeah, it's kind of like if you said, "What is your favorite movie by a favorite or a certain director?" Then I'd be like, "Okay, yeah, you know." Like if you said Argento, I could say, you know, Phenomena is definitely my favorite movie, or Deep Red. You know, what's that?
Fulci.
Oh yeah, so then you got my Trinity there. You got Gates of Hell / City of the Living Dead, The Beyond, and damn it, it left me all of a sudden. Gates of Hell, Beyond, and House by the Cemetery.
Yeah.
So yeah, my top 3.
Dude, great answer. Yeah, I'm a big Fulci fan. I love Italian cinema, especially around those times. Especially when like the Mondo movies were big, and then you had like you had Umberto Lenzi, and you had like also you had Demons, you had of the cannibal movies, dude. You know, and just what a great time for Italian cinema.
Heck yeah.
And music, and again, you had mentioned Fabio Frizzi earlier, who just kind of goes hand in hand with that whole genre. So.
Right.
I knew that would be a good question.
Yeah, I like it. I like you, sir. We can be friends, sir.
You've just made a friend with a hefty.
Well, I did. That's right.
Hefty.
That's right. Absolutely, sir.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man.
Was there anything else you would like to know in the last 4 minutes, sir?
You said you're in the Outer Banks?
Yes, sir.
How's the fishing, my friend?
You know, you're gonna hate me because I'm not a fisherman. My dad loved it. I would go with my dad just to be with him. I hated fishing; it broke me to tears. And I would just,
man, good on you, man. That's a beautiful area.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, my whole family, all my brothers. I got 3 brothers that like to fish, or 2 brothers that really like to fish, and that was my dad's thing. So.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, that's really cool. I love the fact that you went just to be with Dad. I think that speaks volumes about who you are as a person.
Thank you.
No, don't thank me. I'm just pointing out the obvious.
So, besides the book going to come out, do you have anything else that's going to be coming out soon that you want to like share a bit about, or anything like that?
Man, like I said, I'm always working on projects, but keep an eye out for Living Large. That's the sci-fi book.
Yep.
Sort of a sci-fi crime movie, dystopian kind of future crime thing. That's probably the biggest thing coming out right now. I am working on a documentary, and I hope to get done with that by summertime. We'll see. It's called Homegrown Boogeyman: The Search for Johnny Nepkin. And Johnny Nepkin is a local boogeyman that our town sort of created over 100 years ago.
Interesting.
But living in the type of town I live in, where it's very Bible Belt conservative, people don't like to talk a lot about that stuff. Now, if you get them off camera, they'll talk about it, go on and on. But when you say, "Oh man, I would love to put that on camera," "Oh no, I can't do that." You know, about that. Don't want to. And I don't know if it's religious sensibilities or sort of, are you making fun of us? Kind of thing. No, this is my history too. My mother grew up here. My great grandmother. I'm in my great grandmother's house, and they're the ones that told you these stories. And so I'm doing that documentary, and I hope to get it done by summertime. We'll see.
I'll definitely watch that.
That'd be cool.
100%.
That sounds very cool.
And just to touch, I think it's a little bit of both on that. And I've had this discussion before with people where, a lot of religious people don't believe in ghosts, and a lot of religious people don't believe in this and that. And it's like, well, wait a minute. You can't have this omniscient being in the sky that you believe in, sight unseen, and direct all your energy towards that, but kind of disclude all these other phenomenon, you know what I mean? And plus, again, small town, older folk, you know, definitely, I think there's that bit of shame in there, and like that little bit of wariness. Like, are you making fun of da da da? And as sincere as your pitches, and as sincere as you may be, I think that there's a lot of people there that, for both reasons, will be like, I don't want to talk on camera about it, which is sad. You know, I think that's a little hypocritical. And not all religious people are like that, but I think a lot of religious people share that same view. And I know you kind of nodded when I was saying, you know, they don't believe in ghosts and like other things like that. It's like, you kind of have to, if you say yes to one thing, you kind of have to say yes to everything, because otherwise you're going to, you know,
you're splitting hairs.
Yeah. How do you know? How do you not know? You know what I mean? It's a horse apiece at that point. But anyway, thank you for indulging me.
Well, the way I tried to appeal to him, I was like, look, this is your history, and it's going to be gone. You know, people are, all this generation is dying. The generation that knew it and learned it from their, you know, parents or grandparents, like, you're dying, you know, these folks are dying. And I didn't want to like say like you're dead and then it's gone, but I was kind of roundabout same way saying, you know, look, once you die, this history's gone. No one's going to know it. You know, you might be telling your kids or grandkids, but you know, they're going to forget it. They might not even be listening that you're telling them about this story, you know, that really means something to you. And I'm trying to give you this, you know, avenue to share this, you know, this history. And even one person I wanted to share with, he died, and he didn't want to do it. Didn't want to do it. And I was like, and the people were telling me, oh, he's got great stories. And I knew he had great stories because I've talked to him before, but I never got to talk to him about this story.
Yeah.
And then he died, you know, about a month or so ago. And I was like, gosh, dang it, man. Like, dude,
that goes hand in hand. It goes with them. That lore, that history goes with them. And that's sad. I think I wish you the best of luck on that, because I will be at the forefront of people watching that, because I think that's great.
You. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Is there anything else you want to say, AP?
Man, I don't know. It's just been awesome to be here with you guys. It's been a lot of fun. Thankfully, I didn't feel too nervous or too stupid. But
we're just children.
We're big kids, dude. We're easy going, man. You know what I mean?
Man.
We love hearing people's stories. We love meeting new people. You know, and especially, you know, artists. You know, people that care, and like these small movies that go unnoticed, because the one thing that, and just to talk about our movie one last time, the thing we learned is that every movie, no matter how bad or how small, is still somebody's baby.
Right.
That's somebody to a degree, because I'm sure there's some schlock that's just put out there that you know,
just
zero fucks
things
are
out
given.
to do it,
But on the whole, you know, and especially with Hollywood being the way that it is, I think this is the time for independent cinema and like independent thinkers to rise and take that back and be like, movies aren't dead.
Just reboot,
they're not reboot after rehash after reimagining, like, you know, and that's why we love doing these, is because we get some of that, and we get to make new friends. So you know, thank you so much for your time, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you guys all for being here. We will let you go, and we'll be back here Thursday for normal random nonsense. And if everything's good, Tom and Amy on Friday for our first paranormal mystery show in a couple months. So on that note, have a great night, and go out there and be kind to people, because the world's full of darkness, and being kind to one person today might just change their day.
And thank you, AP and Blood Pact Films and Shane and everybody so much for your time.
I knew I was forgetting something.